Excellent. So, welcome to the Disenfranchised, Claire. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's a real pleasure. I've seen you around the franchising industry here and there, and have heard of the Tappy
Yeah.
Toes brand. So, yeah, excited to chat with you. Um, so to get things kicked off, then, like I always do, I just wanted to find out from you, what was your first job after
Yeah.
education?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a dancer through and through. I've danced all my life. And so I went to a professional dance college, Lane Theatre Arts. And when I left that, I did a couple of little jobs, but then I ended up going off on a cruise ship. And at what, 19, I think I was, maybe 20, traveling around the Caribbean, doing a job that I loved. So who could ask for more, really? So yeah, that was my first job. It was 6 months of kind of being away and touring around the Caribbean on a cruise ship.
Wow, fantastic. So, what were the people like on the cruise ships? Because a lot of people
Well,
have kind of ideas of what it's like on these things, and you got the inside scoop there, really. So, yeah,
yeah, I
how did you
mean,
find it?
it's a crazy kind of life, really. You're almost in a little bubble that's completely separated from the real world. So I think when you're on the cruise ship, your life just becomes this little bubble, and all the people become like your family, really, because you're so far away from your family. Which is at times is absolutely fantastic. And if you're with a good crew and a good cast, then it's brilliant. But if you get on stuck on a ship where you don't really like the people, then then I can imagine that's quite different. But luckily, I was with fantastic people and had a brilliant time. But 6 months on a cruise ship is a long time, or it was for me. Like I felt after that, I needed to get off. It's very intense.
Get on some dry land, I should imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
as well. Cool. So, why go into that straight away? What kind of led you into a career in dance and onto that cruise ship?
Yeah, so I mean I danced since I was 3 years old. I started with like a ballet class, and then I learnt modern and tap. And by the time I was kind of, I think probably about 12, 13, I wanted to be a dance teacher. I never had the aspirations to go off and perform at that age. I just wanted to teach dance. I think I was so inspired by my dance teacher. I wanted to be just like her, and that's what I wanted to do. It wasn't until I got to kind of 15, I think, that I actually thought, oh, I'd quite like to perform and do this as a career. And so at 16, I decided I was going to do A levels, but it just wasn't where I wanted to be. And so finally, I gave that up and went off to Lanes. I auditioned for Lanes and was very fortunate to get a scholarship because it's very expensive. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to go otherwise. And yeah, off I went, and that was it. Then I just knew that I wanted to go off and perform. And I think the cruise ship came about because when you first leave college, you don't have a lot of performance experience, and so getting into like the West End or getting the commercial gigs that you want to do ultimately is very, very difficult. So going off and doing 6 months of performing on a cruise ship, where actually the shows are incredible, like we did some insane dancing on the cruise ships that I've never really done since. So it just gives you that performance experience to come back. I think you mature quite a lot, and then from there I then went on to do the career that I had in dance, which was more the commercial side of dance. So yeah, I think I would never have got into that if I hadn't gone off and done the cruise ship first.
Okay, that's cool. And I want to get onto the rest of your career in a moment. But you mentioned there you was inspired by the dance teacher when you was 12, 13, that kind of age.
Yeah.
What was it about her that inspired you?
Do you know, it's funny you should ask, because she wasn't actually very warm. She was quite a strict old school ballet teacher. And so yeah, I don't know, like there was just something about her that she just had an aura. And I don't know if it was an air of confidence or the posture that she carried or what it was, but she just really inspired me. And I loved ballet, and I just loved everything about it. And yeah, I don't know, that's all I can say, really. She wasn't like this warm bubbly personality that some dance teachers are. She was almost the opposite of that. But she was fantastic.
Yeah, that's cool. So I came into this conversation expecting that maybe there was some dancer out there that you were kind of inspired by, and you wanted to be
Not
like them,
really.
but
No, I
it
know,
was
not
the teaching
really.
side first for you. Oh, that's really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Cool. So where did your commercial career take you then?
Well, after the cruise ship, I came back and I was kind of based in London. And you, as all dancers will tell you, you do audition after audition, you get turned down, you have to grow a very thick skin. But if you persevere and keep going, eventually you will get, you know, the jobs that you want. And for me, I loved I would have loved to do the West End, but it was very, you're doing the same thing over and over again, sort of 7, 8 shows a week. And for me, what I loved was the variety of doing commercial work, which was things like, it could be anything from a fashion show, a music video, Top of the Pops back then, you know, music award ceremonies. We did lots of like hair and fashion shows, that kind of thing. And so you would just go and rehearse for like a few days, do a couple of shows, and then you'd be on to the next job. And so I think that was the pull for me, was that kind of variety.
I guess rehearsing for a couple of days, there's quite a lot of pressure then to learn
Yeah.
all of the moves and to get it down and tight, you know, straight away for because some of those shows would have been live, I guess, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a lot to learn, but I think you're so conditioned to do that. You pick choreography up quickly because that's what you've done at college, you know, for 8 hours a day, every day. So I suppose it sounds like a lot to learn to someone that isn't in that industry, but actually it is just expected and it is just what you do. So, I mean, we would do fashion shows where we'd have 5 different dance numbers of like 3 minutes each, say, and we'd have to learn it in a day. We just have to learn the
Wow.
whole thing in a day, and then we would do the show. So yeah, I suppose it's quite crazy, really.
Yeah, I struggled to learn the you know, the baby shark
Yeah.
dance moves in a day.
You need to come to a Tappy Toes class.
Yeah. So that, yeah, that's pretty impressive, and I think it's one of those things that people kind of don't think about when they see, you know, the support dancers on TV shows and on fashion shows and things like that. There's actually a real skill to have that role, you know, and to be able to
Yeah.
learn that choreography in such a short period of time. I'm amazed. I
You
thought it was
do
like weeks worth of stuff.
you do lose it though, the older you get. Like I couldn't do it now. I just wouldn't retain it now because my brain just hasn't been doing it for so long. And don't get me wrong, there are jobs where you'll have like several weeks rehearsal. Like for the cruise ships, I think if I remember rightly, we had about 6 weeks of rehearsals for that because there were several different shows to learn, and those shows were like an hour and a half long. So that was like a proper, you know, proper show where you do have a lot of rehearsals. So it's not always just learn it in a day. I think it's just the commercial gigs are more just in and out because they don't want to pay you for more than a day, you know. So you get it all done and do the gig and off you go.
Yeah, cool. So in terms of the people you've danced with or danced for, has there been any sort of famous people or any people that you've enjoyed dancing with or for?
Yeah, there has. I mean, I don't like to kind of name drop too much, but I did things like we did a tour with Levi's, and we were dancing with Destiny's Child at the time, and then there was,
Awesome.
I mean, the other side of it, like Catherine Jenkins. We did the classical Brit Awards at the Royal Albert Hall with Catherine Jenkins, which was fabulous. But it was a long time ago now, so just trying to think who else. Katie Tunstall's not really around anymore, but again, we did the Brit Awards with Katie Tunstall, which was a fab job, actually, really fun.
I was going to say the Brit Awards. Wow, that must have been quite fun. Did you get to kind of mingle with everybody and meet
Yeah,
all the other
it
stars? Yeah.
was fantastic. In fact, it was the year, and people might remember the year that Kanye West had about 50 dancers painted gold. I don't know if you remember that. I wasn't part of that. I was working for Katie Tunstall then, but we came off stage and Kanye West was in the wings waiting to go on and was like, "Oh, great job, girls!" and on he went to do his part. So you did kind of see people, but yeah, I wasn't mingling at their after show parties or anything like that. I'm afraid nothing that exciting.
No, no, no. What do you call it? Insider stories that you can drop there. No, no,
Oh no,
I wouldn't expect you to.
if I told you, I'd have to kill you, Ed. So
Yeah.
we won't go there.
No, no, I wouldn't expect you to. But so how long were you doing this sort of commercial dancing for then before moving on?
So I danced professionally for 10 years. So I did it for about 10 years. I mean, I did actually go off abroad to do a musical, which really sadly, the investors pulled out. We'd done tons of weeks of rehearsals, and then an investor pulled out and the show got pulled. And so it was supposed to be this amazing tour of the States, and we'd gone out to America to rehearse, and we all got sent home. And I'll just never forget, like, the day of sort of devastation of, it was a huge cast. There were 30 dancers, and everyone had become like best friends. We'd all bonded over these 6 weeks rehearsals, and we literally got told one day, the director came in and you know, broke the news that it was all cancelled and we had to go home, and everyone was just so gutted, because you do put your heart and soul into these things, and you know, it is your passion and you love what you do. So to hear something like that was really, really upsetting. And I think in the end we ended up clawing back a few shows. We went and did a couple of shows in America, and then the following year we toured in like Holland and Ireland and a few different places. But this huge tour that it was meant to be just didn't quite happen, and that does happen, you know, sometimes as well. You have to roll with the punches, I guess.
Yeah, sure. And during those 10 years, were you also teaching as well? Obviously, that was your passion from an
Yeah,
early age. So was that part
yeah.
of what you were doing?
I've been teaching since, I think, assisting since I was about 12. Like, I've always done it and I've always loved it. So as a commercial dancer, you're never always working. You've always got downtime where you're auditioning or you haven't got any work. And so for me, like, a lot of people would do promotional work, like handing out flyers or samples, and I just couldn't bear that. I hated that. So for me, my work would be the teaching. So I would teach whenever I could, and whether that was like a weekly class or a workshop or a summer school or whatever, I was always teaching alongside my dancing career.
Okay, cool. So how did the idea for Tappy Toes come about?
So I was actually teaching at another studio at the time, and she didn't do any classes for kind of under age 6. Like, hers was all like older kids. And everywhere around seemed to take children from age 3. Like, you could do a ballet class when you were 3, but there was nothing before that. And if you didn't want to do ballet, you know, if you didn't want your child to do ballet, then there wasn't anything. And so I just decided that there was a bit of a gap for that. And so I started teaching in my local area, which at the time was in Watford. At the studio that I was also teaching street dance for, I said to her, look, can I hire the studio during the day and do some like toddler classes? And she said, yeah, fine. So that's what I did. And I just created a couple of little lesson plans. I got a few props. It was kind of no big deal. It was just, you know, I'll see how this goes. And I just remember it was really crazy busy, and it was obvious that mums with toddlers wanted a class like that. So it just really quickly grew from that one class to kind of 3 classes there, and then 4 classes. And then it was like, right, okay, I could do it in Rickmansworth as well, the next town, and Bushy, the next town. And so it just slowly, organically grew like that. Yeah, and there was no intention to ever franchise at that stage. Like, that was never the intention.
Cool. So did you have the brand name from day one, or when did that
Yeah,
come in?
yeah, I did. And I brainstormed names and I just came up with it. I mean, I can't even remember how, because it was so long ago now, but I just loved it. It just felt like a really cute name, and it was quite memorable. And I searched that, you know, nobody else was using it. And I chose the name. And then my one of my best friends said to me, you need to trademark it. It's brilliant. You need to trademark it. And I didn't really know at that point, you know, I wasn't particularly business minded. I didn't really know about that. And she actually lent me I think it was £250 to get the trademark. And that was my friend Vicky, and she was the one that kind of said, right, get it trademarked, I'll lend you the money, you know, we've got to do this. I think it could be really big, and you could have loads of people teaching Tappy Toes. And yeah, and so that was kind of, I suppose, the time that I even had the thought of maybe taking it further afield than just me doing it. So it's thanks to Vicky.
Yeah, and what a profit. Has you got any other predictions?
No.
Cool. And around the branding then as well, did that come straight away, or how did you find that kind of journey in
No,
creating
it didn't actually. I can remember, and this is, you're taking me back now, Ed, but I can remember thinking, right, I need to get some t-shirts or something printed for the kids to wear. And I went into H&M, I think it was, and I found they just had these pale yellow t-shirts, and I thought, well, I'll just get Tappy Toes printed in red on these t-shirts. So I bought kind of all the t-shirts that they had, which wasn't many, you know, like 20 t-shirts or something. And I just went to the local printer down the road and I said, oh, I need Tappy Toes printed on this. I didn't have a logo, I didn't, you know, really have anything. And yeah, the guy in the printer said, oh, okay, well, I could do it like this for you. And he just like created Tappy Toes with a little toe on the end of the S. And I was like, oh, brilliant. Okay, great. And he printed these t-shirts. And that was kind of the first bit of branding. And it wasn't till a few years later that I had like a proper rebrand where we created the actual logo that we use now, and we revamped the website and all of that. But yeah, back then it was just the local print guy that kind of made the words Tappy Toes and put little toes on the end. And that was it.
It's funny, isn't it? Did you find it a difficult thing to do, building the brand, coming up with the name, trademarking, all of those kind of business bits? You mentioned that you didn't have a kind of business background before starting this.
I say I didn't have a business background, but I suppose I also own a dance and performing arts school that I set up and created from scratch myself. And back then that was just starting as well. So I kind of launched the two businesses together. So I don't think I found it difficult, because I think being a dancer, you've got that kind of the grit and determination and I don't know, you have to succeed, and you've got that drive in you, because it's kind of taught to you from an early age. I think that's what dance classes teach, you know, that determination to succeed and that ambition. And so I was like, well, this has to happen. I'm just going to get on with it and do it. And I'm very much, you know, if I don't know something, I'll go and find out the answer. And I think that's what I did. I was like, okay, trademark, right, let's find out what that is and what I need to do. And yeah, and so you just research and learn along the way. I mean, if I knew now what I knew back then, it would have been very helpful, but I could have skipped a few years. But you know, I built the business up slowly, and so now I'm in a position where I am business minded and I do feel like a business person, whereas 20 years ago I would have said I was a dancer.
Yeah, but it's important, isn't it, for you, I guess, at the time, to have gone out to other people and asked them for their advice and support. And yeah, like you say, it takes a little time to build up, but once it's there, the knowledge is there, isn't it? So
yeah.
Okay, so doing a bit of research, I realised that you're allowing children into the class. That's perhaps a bit of a weird way to say it, but you have six-month year old children joining your classes. I have to ask, how much dancing are they doing at that age?
Yeah, exactly. And actually it has, I think, taken us a while to educate kind of parents on what they can do, because I think a parent of a 6-month-old wouldn't necessarily think of taking them to a dance class because they can't really move much. But when we started Tappy Toes, we started with 2-year-olds, and then it slowly the age range got lower and lower and lower. And teeny toes, which is what we call our baby class, is our newest branch of the syllabus, and we've only been doing that for about a year. And basically it's kind of more movement and sensory and getting the parent dancing with their baby, so there's that bonding going on. And we've got some lovely props that we use, so there's like spiky glow balls for them to kind of play around with, and foam batons that light up, and ribbons, and all sorts of sensory stuff. So it's more about them listening to the music, having a bit of a wiggle, having a boogie with mum or dad or grandma, rather than, you know, we're obviously not teaching them pirouettes and arabesques yet, but but hopefully we're giving them that love and instilling that love of dance in them at this really, really early age. So if they start dancing from an early age, they're much more likely to continue it. And I think dance can be a really, really powerful tool when you get to your teenage years, especially the day that we live in now, where anxiety is just sky high with teenagers and lots of issues and stuff. I think that dance can be a really great outlet for teenagers. So if we can get them doing it when they're, you know, babies, maybe they'll carry that all the way through.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And my daughter perhaps has some nerves in going into new groups, and you know, we try and ease her into these things as much as possible. But the reason we do that is because we know that's going to build her confidence, make another friends group that's away from her school group maybe. But
Yeah,
Also
absolutely.
just get to know people and start to communicate with people in a different way over something that she enjoys doing. So
yeah.
I guess it makes sense to start that at an earlier age. And yeah, we I don't think we really knew that it was out there, like you say. Perhaps parents with
Yeah,
6-month
exactly.
olds aren't educated on that
You
really.
just wouldn't think of it. So it's a case of, for us, we have to market it as, you know, a baby class, so that people find it and go, oh well, I've never thought about doing dance with my 6-month-old, but that looks great. And then they come along and try it, and they have a great time.
It's probably great for the parents as well, right? Because it's
Yeah.
it's like comradeship, isn't it? Where there's
Yeah,
somebody else who's sleep deprived and
exactly.
as
It is.
a young screaming child on their hip the whole time, you know, throughout the day. It's probably quite nice to have somebody else there to sort of talk about the challenges they're going through
Yeah,
and let off a bit of steam
absolutely.
in
It's a
some
really
way.
nice way to meet other parents, and yeah, and it gets them up and moving and out of the house, and yeah, so it can only be a good thing.
Yeah, cool, excellent. So in terms of the different kinds of elements to your brand, then you mentioned obviously you've got the tiny toes and the main brand Tappy Toes. So these are all face-to-face classes, or
Yeah,
I'm
well,
asking the question, but I kind of know already. It's
yeah,
online
well,
as
it's
well,
been,
right?
it's been a crazy, what, 18 months, hasn't it? And we took, obviously, I'd never even considered an online dance class before COVID hit, but you know, needs must, and you adapt, and you, like we said earlier, roll with the punches. And we literally took our classes online the very next day that the kind of lockdown happened, and realized that it can also work online. And you know, people still had fun, they were dancing around in their living rooms or wherever they could, and they were still having a lovely time. So it was great that we were able to do that, but we're so happy to be back in person now, because you just can't beat the atmosphere of, you know, of a live class with children. Like, we've noticed a huge difference in the behaviour of the children pre-COVID to now, and it's
Really?
kind of sad, and it does break my heart a little bit. But I know they're resilient and they'll all bounce back and be fine. But just when we came back after COVID, you've got toddlers who would normally be sort of running around and interacting with each other, and they just didn't know how to do that. They were just glued to their grown-up's leg, you know, so clinging on to mum for like the first few weeks back. Um, and it was quite sad to see. As a Tappy Toes teacher, you're kind of used to, like, the kids will run up to you and they want to hug you and get involved and do all those things, and they just have been conditioned to obviously stay away from
Yeah.
people because they've had to. So it's been a transition getting back to the class that we know, and we're still obviously distancing, we're still being really careful because it's obviously still out there. But yeah, it's interesting to see the difference in the children.
Yeah, so it's an interesting point, that one, because we did wonder whether my son, because he was yeah, I guess just about 4 when it all kicked in. It's probably
Right.
3 at the time, and we did wonder how he would be in groups of people again. You know, because
Yeah.
that's such an important development sort of phase in their life, in building confidence and things. Luckily enough, he just doesn't care. He just runs up to anyone anyway. You know, as
That's
long as
good.
he's got the okay from us. But yeah, it's going to be a real challenge, I think, or it'd be interesting to see the impact it's going to have on children as they grow up. Is it something that's going to be really detrimental, or is it just something, like you say, they bounce back from? So
Yeah.
hopefully they will. Hopefully they will. And
Yeah, I think so. And I think classes like what we do, classes like Tappy Toes, can really help that. So just getting them used to
yeah,
social settings again and developing those social skills.
yeah, exactly. Get them back out to the classes again.
Yeah.
And I guess you've seen an uptake, obviously, from the COVID period in those classes. Has it been a big boom? Has their numbers
Yeah.
increased?
It's been huge. Yeah. It's been, I think, because people were locked down for so long, they just, as soon as they could, were just booking like crazy. So all of a sudden we were full with waiting lists and adding on additional classes. I think as the franchisor, I don't run that many classes myself as a franchisee. I only had pre-COVID 3 or 4 classes because that's all I hadn't really planned to open anymore. But when we reopened, I had so much demand that I didn't really have a choice. Like, I had to open more. So I've ended up with 12 classes a week
Oh
now,
wow!
which wasn't really the plan, but I just wanted to accommodate everyone because parents were so desperate to get into classes. So yeah, I think all of the franchisees have found it very easy to fill classes since we reopened.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's a lot of pressure on you now, isn't it, to run the
I
franchise
know.
and and run all
Yeah.
those additional classes. So yeah, it's well done for keeping it all going. Because especially with 18 months kind of away from that face to face and all of the travel that's involved and things like that,
Yeah.
it's a complete shift in what you're doing, isn't it, on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, well done
Yeah.
for keeping it going.
Thanks.
So when did the first classes start? You mentioned it was some time ago now.
Long time ago. Yeah. I mean, the first classes were probably around 2002, which was just me in Watford. And then I didn't even consider franchising until I got pregnant with my first child, which I think was what kind of inspired me and spurred me on, because I thought, actually, now I'm going to have a family. I just want to have something, a business that eventually maybe I can pass on to my daughter if she's interested in doing it, and also the flexibility of being around for the kids, and being able to work my own hours and whatever. So that was kind of my driving force, I guess, to turn it into a franchise, and that was in 2013. I had my kids very close together, so I wasn't really trying to build the franchise at that point. It was just, see how it goes with a couple of pilot franchises. And so it wasn't until Isla went to school, which she's been 2 years now at school, it wasn't until she started school that I thought, okay, now's the time to drive the franchise and build the franchise. So that's only really been the last 2 years.
Right.
And then
Okay.
COVID hit, of course. COVID
Yeah.
started.
Perfect timing. Hey.
Yeah, but actually it kind of catapulted us, I think, because we've gone from sort of 5 franchises to nearly 20 in that
Oh wow.
period. So yeah, so it helped us, I think.
Yeah. So I got a few questions off the back of that
Yeah.
now. So why franchising, and how did you find it? I know you said
Yeah.
it kind of drove you to find franchising and franchise the business by having your child, but yeah, how did you know about franchising, and why was that the right model?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And actually, if I try and think back, I don't even know like how I first came across franchising. I just kind of knew about franchising because McDonald's was a franchise, for example. Like I don't think I really knew too much about it at the time, but I started to look into it because I was doing several different classes and I had a few teachers working for me. And I just thought, to take this out further across the UK and to build it, I can't do it all. Like there's got to be another way. And that's when when I found franchising, I guess, because I could set up classes all over the place, but I'm not in that local area. I'm not part of that community. I don't know the best church hall to hire. And so franchising just seemed logical if I wanted to scale up the business. And I found a fantastic company that did franchise agreements and manuals and taught me like what I needed to do and helped me to do all of those documents that I needed. And then I think once I had the documents ready and in place, I just sent out kind of a newsletter within the dance teacher network saying, if anyone's interested in becoming a pilot franchisee, get in touch. And I sold my first franchise through that newsletter.
Wow.
And that was it from there, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. And what you said there about the local piece, I think's really interesting, because I know a lot of people's first thoughts when they think of McDonald's franchise is it's not local. It's just this American company that's taken over the world,
Yes.
But for you, franchising was you're able to get people plugged into your business, into your brand that had that local knowledge of,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. And I think what you've said there is right. People have this vision or this view of franchising as just being this huge corporation and it being a faceless corporation kind of thing. But actually, in a network like ours, the franchisees are just local people in their local area running a local business. It just happens to come under an umbrella of of a bigger business, I guess, but it is still a local business. And I think sometimes it's quite sad that people think, oh, I'm not going there because it's a franchise. It's like, well, it is a franchise, but it's still owned by a local business person who's trying to make a living. It's not, I think sometimes there's a bit of a stigma of franchising, which is a little unfair.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just an easier way for people that perhaps aren't as confident as you to go out there and find out about trademarks and all of those things.
Yeah.
It's a way for them to use your knowledge and your experience to get their business up and running quicker, right? It's just makes sense.
Yeah, and when I look back over the last 20 years and I think of all the things that I've had to put in place and all the systems and all the processes and all the things I've had to learn, I think for somebody now starting up, I mean, if I knew all of those things, I think I'd probably consider a franchise, because it's all just done. Like, it's done for you. You kind of get handed this business on a plate and you don't really have to do all the hard kind of legwork. Obviously you have to still market it and get people to come to your new business, but all the heavy lifting is done. And I think that is the benefit of a franchise. And sometimes people see a big franchise fee and think, oh, well, I'll just do it on my own, and don't consider the costs of websites and hosting and SEO optimization and, national marketing campaigns that are involved if you're part of a franchise, and all of that stuff that actually normally the franchise fee is very reasonable.
Yeah, and I think the time as well it takes to do all those things, because you know people's personal time is valuable as well. And when you go out there and set something up and it's a bit of a mistake, and it might cost you money, but it's also cost you time in trying to do that. So
and my franchisees, if they come across a problem or an issue, they'll call me and I'll have already had that problem or issue in the past. I'll know how to deal with it. They've always got that backup and support, which I think they've found really invaluable.
Yeah, cool. So do you have a personal relationship with all of your franchisees then?
Absolutely. I would go out for a cup of coffee or a glass of wine with every single one of them. And I think that is how I've built my network, is through, I will have a meeting with a potential franchisee. And of course, there's lots of factors that you have to think about. But for me, can I sit and chat with that person, have a cup of coffee, enjoy their company? Because I'm going to be working with them really closely. And if I can't, it's just not going to work. And I think learning to say no to potential franchisees that you don't think are going to be right for your network is a really hard lesson. And I've been really fortunate that so far, every single one of them, we're just a little family, like a little group, really. They're so supportive of each other. They help each other. I'm really, really happy with the people in the network. There isn't one bad egg, and everybody's just got each other's backs. So I think that's really important when you are recruiting franchisees, that you think about that and how they're going to fit in with your current network of franchisees.
Yeah, makes complete sense. I'm a strong believer that that's almost the most important thing about if somebody's buying into a franchise is, can you get on with the people that they're going to be supporting you? Because as soon as you hit a challenge, in difficult times, which is pretty likely in any business setup, can you work through it together with them? If you're going to be fighting and at loggerheads all the time, it's not going to work, is it? Yeah. Okay. So why? Well, you've over the years, then you've gone on to build, a fairly sizable business now and brand. So why do you think you've had this success? What's been the reasons behind the success of the brand?
I think it's probably a bit of grit and determination of, I'm going to make this work. This is going to work. And consistency of just, keep putting it out there and I think because I didn't actively market it as a franchise previously, because that wasn't the right thing for me in my life at that time. I had 2 very small children, and I couldn't have supported a network of 20 franchisees at that time. I think I suddenly realized when I did start marketing it, how good it was. I know that probably sounds awful, but it's such a lovely business to be part of. And I feel like I'm like helping other mums who are, they want to earn an income. They still want to take their kids to school and pick them up. And I feel like I'm really helping them with that, because the franchisees that I've got all are really, really passionate about Tappy Toes, and they love it, and they love their job. We had a training day yesterday. We danced for 8 hours, like literally 10 till 6. We danced and learned all the new lesson plans and all the syllabus, and we had so much fun. We went for lunch. At lunchtime, we went out for lunch. There were 4 of us there, and we all just said, "This is awesome! Like, what a job! Like, we're having such a lovely time. Like, it's not like working." And so I feel like I need to share that with more people, because it's just brilliant. It's just brilliant fun.
So I guess that's ultimately work-life balance, right? This is doing something you love doing, and making some money from it as well, obviously. So what do you think? Kind of that I've used the word there already, work-life balance. But what does that actually mean to you and your franchisees? Do you think?
Yeah.
Because that can mean different things to different people, I guess.
Yeah, it really can. But to me, it means I am able to take my kids to school and pick them up every single day. If I need to be at an assembly or a school play, I'm there. I'm with them in the school holidays. Like, that for me is the work-life balance thing, is just being able to be there for them, but still contribute to the household income and the paying the bills and all of that. And that's really important to me, and I think that's really important to most of my franchisees. Not all of them have children yet, but majority of them have young families, and that's why they found us. We have a lot of ex-teachers in our network who were working so many hours and doing so much planning, and they love kids, they love teaching, but being a full-time school teacher was just too much. And they've found us, and now, like you say, they've got that work-life balance. They are around for the kids, and because your classes fit in around your school day, you take the kids and then you can do classes from 9:30, you can do them all morning, and you can do nursery sessions in the afternoon, and then go and pick the kids up. So it just ties in really nicely.
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm a little bit cautious about sort of using work-life balance too much, because I think for some people, maybe they think, oh, okay, I can just take the foot off the gas and relax a little bit, and things will just land on my plate. But I guess it's important to make sure you're still working hard, though, right? It isn't something you just
I think it
turn up and money comes in.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what business you run, whether you start up on your own or you run a franchise. It's not just going to happen. Like, as a franchisor, I'm not going to fill your classes for you, because I'm not there in your local area to do that. You're going to have to put some work in. You're going to have to do the back end of the business, like the admin and the invoices and that kind of thing as well. You can't just sit back and hope that it all happens. Like, there is work, of course there is, but I suppose the flexibility that a franchise like Tappy Toes offers is that back end work can be done at any time. It's not 9 to 5 in an office. You can sit there, put the kids to bed, do a couple of hours in the evening if you wanted, or at the weekends, or basically whenever suits you. So I think that's the balance, is finding a job where you don't have to be here at this time and leave at this time. You can do it on your terms. So yeah, it is hard work, but it's on your terms.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just about having the right mindset, isn't it? And going into it thinking, okay, yeah, I've got to work hard, but the great thing is I can work hard when I want to, and pick up the kids, like say, or whatever.
It's your own business. Yes, it's a franchise, but it's their own business. So you don't mind working hard when it's for your own business and you reap the rewards, not the employer, kind of thing. So I think that makes a big difference as well to people's mindset, that they think, they're growing this business for themselves. So
yeah. I think all parents should just do that. Go out and start working, finding part-time roles, and maybe it is for a franchise. So it's you can do what you want. It'd have been a lot easier, and I wouldn't have had so many tired days at work, I think.
Yeah.
Cool. So I wanted to ask you, obviously, you've been working with, well, your company Tappy Toes for a while now. Has there been any funny stories during that time that you've had, or strange or weird ones?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's always kind of funny stories with kids, because they're so literal. So whatever you say to them, they just take completely literally. So yeah, I mean, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but there's just always funny stuff happens. Like, every single class is different, and they become your little buddies. They just the little ones just adore their teacher, you know, whoever's teaching them. They're quite fickle as well, so you know, if you're not teaching them and another teacher comes in, they'll be best friends with that one as well. But yeah, they're quite fickle, but they do look up to all the teachers, and they kind of, you know, they would run up to, if you're changing the music or you're getting the props out, they'll run up to you, and they're just so engaged and engrossed in the class. It's lovely to see. So yeah, I can't
that
think of
sounds cool.
a particular funny story, but
No, that sounds really cool. I guess that's you in many ways, going back to kind of your early career, being the person that's being looked up to now, rather than looking up to that person, which is really kind of nice.
yeah, I never really thought of that, but yeah.
Nice circle to see. So with that in mind, then I guess, have there been any specific proud moments in your career?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's been lots. Like, if we're talking like whole career, I mean, there's
Yeah.
been tons, but specific to Tappy Toes, last year we won the virtual franchising awards that are sponsored by Barclays. We won best franchisee support, and so
Oh,
of
awesome.
all the awards, that to me was just like the most amazing thing to win, because that is my ethos, is to support my franchisees and to make sure they feel supported and they're backed up, and they, you know, they've got everything they need to make their business a success. So to win that award was absolutely brilliant. We got a silver award for best adaptation to change as well, for how we dealt with the pandemic and how we came out of that, which was great. But the franchisee support is the one that really means a lot to me.
Yeah, that's really nice. So that I've got to ask then, what do you think in your support package is the thing that got you that win? You know,
Yeah,
why is it so special?
I think when COVID hit, it was obviously a really, really difficult time. And I just got everybody on a Zoom call. We brainstormed, right, this is what's going to happen. This is what we're going to do. We adapted our lesson plans to suit being online. We introduced like new merchandise and gift packs that they could send out and sell, so they could still earn something. So I just really tried to make sure they still had some form of income throughout that pandemic. I stopped all the royalty, like the management payments. So as a
Yeah.
franchise, you'll pay management fees each month, or royalties, some people call them. And I just stopped all of that. I stopped all of their advertising levy. So they didn't have any outgoings to me during the whole lockdown, which I think was a massive help
Yeah, that
to
is
them.
massive.
And we just regularly kept in touch, regular updates, you know, making sure they were all okay, like mental health wise and business wise. And everybody's survived and fine and come out flying the other end. So something worked. But yeah, I think they just felt like I cared and wanted to make sure they were okay. And I think that's the most important thing, because I think as a franchise, you can get to a size where you lose sight of what's making your business a success, and that is your franchisees. And I never ever want to lose sight of that. So
Yeah, I think it goes back to that personal connection that you have with each one of them. It's
yeah.
really important, right? And I'm gonna share with you just really quickly a post I saw a little while ago. It's from a franchise brand in Australia called Jim's Group. The franchise owner, so the group's massive. You know, there's hundreds of franchisees all over the place. He gives all of them his personal mobile number, so that at any time they need him, they can get hold of him. I mean, hardly they're not likely to use it because they don't necessarily need to. There's a support team
Yeah,
around him, but just that personal connection I
they've got
thought
that.
was really important. And it sounds like you've definitely got that with your
Yeah, it's
franchisees, which is
little
cool.
things like that. We have a group, like WhatsApp group, where everybody can post their questions, and that's where the support of the other franchisees comes in as well, because
Yeah,
they'll answer their questions and they help each other. And yeah, it's a really nice feel to the group.
yeah, that's cool. So I'm going to wrap up now, but before I do, the last question is, if you could give one piece of advice to somebody who's looking to buy a franchise business, whether it's yours or any others, what would that one piece of advice be?
Okay, so my one piece of advice would be, you have to jump in with both feet. You can't kind of, if you're considering coming out of your old career and thinking about leaving your job, but you think, well, maybe I'll just stay on 2 days a week and start the franchise. You've got to go for it. If you make that decision, I think you've just got to go all in, and you will then build your business faster, quicker, better, you know. But if you are still kind of hanging on just in case it doesn't work or it takes too long to take off, it's never going to take off. Like, you have to go all in, 100% faith, and just go for it. That's my advice.
Awesome. Claire, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. It's been great to get to know you and hear about your business. And yeah, take care.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, Ed.
Thanks so much. See you later.
Bye-bye.